There's something waiting for you in the waters. Here's your relook at the NECA Toys Friday the 13th Retro Cloth Pamela Voorhees, Lady of the Lake. Jason's mom, Pamela Voorhees, the original killer from Friday the 13th, is back. Having died in the first movie, she appears again in Friday the 13th Part 3. This Lady of the Lake figure depicts Pamela as she appeared in Chris's dream, a nightmarishly rotted corpse emerging from Crystal Lake to pull Chris in. This fully posable figure, stands 8 inches tall, features synthetic hair and distressed clothing. I think one thing we should have learned by now is once you've survived a maniac's killing spree, you don't go out to the lake and start relaxing. I'd be far away from there, lickety-split. Before we get a closer look, though, at the Lady of the Lake, Pamela Voorhees, I'm going to grab the tape measure here just to see how tall the figure stands. I don't even think I measured the figure the first time I had a look at it. Now this is the second outing for the Lady of the Lake. Pamela Voorhees stands 7 inches in height, or the figure's roughly about 18 centimeters tall. The reason why we're going back and looking at the Lady of the Lake a second time is actually I've gotten a lot of questions lately about her. One question, and I apologize if I don't remember the viewer's name, but had asked me if the sweater was removable, as they certainly would like to have used it for a diorama setup. Well, that sort of triggered it from there. And somebody had also asked if the Lady of the Lake scaled well with a regular Ultimate Jason Voorhees. So again, all the more reason why we wanted to look at this figure again. Answering at least one of the questions right now, does the figure of the Lady of the Lake line up well with an Ultimate Jason, like if you're not collecting the retro cloth figures? Well, let's go ahead and bring in Jason right now. Ironically, I did decide to want to bring in the dream sequence Jason. I thought it was kind of fitting for the fact that Pamela Voorhees comes in a dream. But you can see, you'd be dreaming to think that Pamela Voorhees would scale well with a regular-sized Jason Voorhees. She may scale a little bit better, though, with one of these. The Retro Cloth Part 2 Jason Voorhees. I actually kept the hood a little looser so I could do this. Ooh! But yeah, you can see, like, Pamela Voorhees would scale a lot better with the Retro Cloth figure. So at least from that standpoint, it answers one of your questions. Does she scale well with a regular Ultimate Release Jason? The answer to that is obviously no. Some sad news, though, for the Lady of the Lake is accessories, as the figure comes included with none. What you see is what you get, and no span of time between the last time we had a look at her to the time now has any new accessories materialized. You'd be dreaming. Picking, though, up the Lady of the Lake and getting a closer look at her right now, I always found of the first 3 films, if you would consider the trilogy before we got to Final Chapter, of the scares at the end, I always found the Lady of the Lake was the scariest of the 3. Yeah, you've got the original OG, young Jason, splashing up from the water. And of course, you've got the splashing or crashing through the window in the Part 2. But I always thought the Lady of the Lake was the scariest of the 3. She just sort of looked really scary and obviously just decaying like this. One of the questions, of course, you guys, the other question that sort of started things off was, can you remove the sweater? Well, I'm not going to remove this sweater in the full extent because it would involve me having probably a tougher time to put it back onto the figure, but I'll just show you at least from the sense of getting it past her elbows. You can slide it over her arms. You know what? So let's just do this. If you're going to ask the question, I might as well be at least a reviewer that's going to deliver those answers. And we're going to slip the sweater off, realizing I'm probably going to have a little more of a tougher time getting it back on. She looks so silly without her sweater. Going to put the figure right there. One of the problems that does face the Lady of the Lake is not only just, well, she'd be decaying in the waters, but also the fact that she's got the old system of ankles. To answer your question, though, viewer that had asked me, yes, you can. You can remove the sweater. If you did want to make yourself, say, a diorama of Part 2, by all means, all the power to you. Lady of the Lake, Pamela Voorhees, I think, is still readily available. So if you wanted to check online for her, or if you, say, for example, wanted to go to your local comic book stores, I have still seen quite a lot of Lady of the Lakes. Getting a Pamela Voorhees and the young Jason, that's a problem all on its own. I'm still unable to find that at a good, reasonable price. But anyways, you can remove this sweater. It's a nicely knit sweater. You can see some little decayed openings here, ripped away sections on the sleeve. And you've got like little slashes and stuff there on the front there. A very dirty looking sweater. And yet, for the fact that she has been dwelling in the dark depths of the lake, she actually, like, the sweater looks pretty good. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse. While we are also having this opportunity, I guess we can actually look at the fact that they did actually use a brown body for Pamela. And then the decayed part, the part, of course, you would see past the sleeve, that has actually been sculpted. So it kind of starts and gets rather clean up here, but at least you got a really nice decayed looking arm and equally decayed looking hands. If you were to lift the body up, just to show you what it looks like underneath, I certainly did not do this in the first time of looking at Lady of the Lake. You can see, again, like it's just a regular brown body underneath. I'm sure they've probably used this body before with the likes of, say, Laurie Strode. Probably would have used the same similar body to the Lady of the Lake here. You can see as well she's wearing a t-shirt. Let's go ahead and fix this. Now I can say one thing I've done. How did your day go? Well, I dressed down a decayed-looking doll. That's something. Oh, that's better than me. I actually just went to the grocery store and picked up a carton of milk. Aha, I win. One of the things I thought I was going to be worried about is the thing I'm having a problem with right now. Because she does have the sort of spiky fingers, everything is sort of snagging onto the sweater as I'm trying to pull the sleeves back onto her arm. I'm going to do this carefully. We don't have to be super careful, I suppose, even if you're going to leave holes behind on the sweater. It's not like the sweater doesn't already have the holes there anyways. There's one arm. Where did we leave off? Okay, there's the other. I poked it through one of the holes. I really did want to put it through the sleeve. But I hope that did answer the question to the viewer out there that did ask, can you take off Pamela Voorhees' sweater? You can. You may have a bigger time, a struggle, more of a time to actually get this back onto her, though. But we're going to go ahead and slide this back over her. It's like dressing a very small toddler. If your toddler had been living in a lake for all these years. Anyways, we're going to slide this down. I guess it's not so many years, has it? Anyways, we're going to slide this over. I think we're almost there. We've made actually better progress than I expected we would be having. Talk amongst yourselves while we're doing this. Just got to get it past the thumb. I just got to get past the thumb. There we go. All right. Whew. Putting that back over top of her. I'm probably never going to do that ever again. The likelihood of me ever wanting just to display Pamela Voorhees with just a black t-shirt, slim to none, slim to none. Getting a closer look at her head sculpt, though, it's decayed. It looks like a prune. She's got these interesting little worms that are kind of crawling all over her face. That's lovely. And I love the fact that she does have this shrieking pose. Now, obviously, in this look, they don't have to have a closer resemblance to looking like Pamela Voorhees, because by now she's just decayed. It wasn't even the same actress that played Pamela coming from the watery depths. The hair is actually very similar to the retro cloth Victor Crowley in the sense it's very like stringy, strandy little parts of hair that's actually been glued to the top here. You can see right there. The head is slightly shinier than the rest of the face around it. But again, like I think the head sculpt is pretty good if you want this look for Pamela. I still would like to get, don't get me wrong, that Pamela Voorhees and young Jason, but that's a lot of mucho dinero, and not mucho dinero I really have at the moment. Again, we've already looked at the fact that she does have these very oversized hands, considering she has very malnourished looking arms. I guess you wouldn't really lose the size. You can only really get fat hands. I think once you get down to really thin hands, the size of your hands are still going to stay the same. But they're at least interesting looking hands. I mean, they're good for coming up and grabbing Chris, who's my favorite of the final girls of the Friday the 13th franchise. Who's yours? Let me know down below. Then, of course, we already have the pants. We looked at the fact that they're slightly a little bit more dirtier and dingier. There's the back of it. Pamela has no behind whatsoever. Not that that's something you're going to be looking a lot at, but she has little to no behind. And then she does have pretty decent looking footwear. I like the way they've actually kind of eroded away the sneakers to show actually what her feet look like underneath. I guess she wasn't wearing socks. You can see that she's got bare feet peeking through. This would be, of course, just up to the creative minds of NECA, because we wouldn't have been obviously able to see the footwear. She's only splashing out of the water from basically like this part up. So like all down below is just reimagined by NECA. Unfortunately, though, one of the problems with these older, earlier retro cloth figures is that they don't have ankle pivot. She only has just a hinge joint back and forth. So unfortunately, like one of my feet, not my feet, Pamela's feet, you can see is slightly lopsided. They look good. I just kind of wish that they would be better articulated. Anyways, so for the articulation, speaking of which, for the Lady of the Lake, the head is on a ball joint, so you can hinge it up, you can hinge it down, you can also rock it back and forth as well. You can bring those arms out, as you would be the case with all the other retro cloth figures. You can, of course, bring the arms forward, you can bring them back. There's a swivel there, a single hinge on the elbow, rotation in the hands, swivel in the waist, because the newer retrocloth figures will, of course, have upper torso ball joint. I can't do that. I can't do that with Lady of the Lake. I can only do this with Pamela Voorhees. Legs split out. They are going to be a little bit tighter, obviously, for the fact that she does have tighter pants. You bring the legs forward, bring them back, a little swivel at the top of the thigh, single hinge on the knee. As we've already discussed as well, she has the hinge on the feet as well. For what she is, I actually think she does things well. Again, I would still be open to the idea of tracking one down at an affordable price. I'm not going to be paying in order to kind of get myself one. But at some point, I would like to get the Pamela Voorhees and young Jason retrocloth 2-pack. In the meantime, though, we have the Lady of the Lake. I'm going to display her along with her grown-up son. What a sore for side eyes. I don't know actually who looks worse. But at least in the sense of scaling these look a lot better than the other question asked prior to the time of shooting this video. Again, does she scale well with Jason Voorhees? I know we've already looked at this, but just more for comedic finale to this review. Yeah, she doesn't scale well at all with the Ultimate figures. Scales well with figures of this size, not so much with a regular size Jason. Sorry to disappoint you. If you don't mind having a Pamela Voorhees on your shelf that bears little to no resemblance to the original actress Betsy Palmer that played her in the first film, then you know what, you're in luck. Lady of the Lake is quite easy to come by. Many of the online sites that were selling her initially are still selling her to this day, and you could probably even step into a local comic book store and not find one of them sitting on the shelf. In fact, several weeks back, I went to a local comic book store picking up other things, and sure enough, I think they had 2 Lady of the Lake still in clamshell sitting on the pegs. Nobody really was buying them. They're probably even still there now. Lady of the Lake, of course, is a good stand-in for Pamela Voorhees, but I don't think it really does replace the original 2-pack Pamela Voorhees and young Jason Voorhees. Still a set that has eluded me. Unfortunately, the price continues to skyrocket. And it may have something to do with the fact I don't think NECA is probably ever going to re-release that set. I don't know what licensing they have anymore for the likeness of Betsy Palmer. And of course, we're still tied up with that whole nonsense with the Friday 13th and the courts and who really owns the franchise right now. But at least, again, if you don't mind having more decayed version of Betsy Palmer, or to some extent, Pamela Voorhees, then yeah, this one fits in perfect. Now, the figure isn't perfect in the sense that even though she is decayed, she's using still an old retro-style body. That means not only is she going to have problems standing because, of course, the ankles don't properly pivot, but she doesn't also have holes on the bottoms of her feet, something I didn't even mention in this review. Being the fact she doesn't have any holes on the bottoms of the feet, you just have to kind of balance the figure and hope that she's not going to fall over because you can't attach a regular NECA stand to the bottom of her. Other than that, though, not a bad-looking stand-in, but it certainly isn't going to replace the original 2-pack Pamela and Jason. Fingers crossed I can actually find one down the road at not one that I have to start selling organs in order to buy. Do you have the original Pamela Voorhees and Jason Voorhees? And do you also have the Lady of the Lake? Let me know down below in the comments section. And for your video question for today, we were just talking about Chris from part 3. Who's your favorite final girl from the Friday the 13th franchise? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content that you guys have been seeing, especially as of late, then make sure, if you haven't already done so, that you hit the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on so you're going to get reminders every single time a new video pops up. And of course, keep your peepers peeled while we have wrapped up the things for the Lady of the Waters. There's definitely going to be a lot more NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.